It's a little after 2 in the morning. And you hear it again, that soft, deliberate scratching just above the ceiling, in the dark space over your bed. You've been told what that sound is. A pest, an intruder, a problem that got into your house and needs to be removed. But you've been told it wrong. What's up there in the dark, right now, above your head, is not lost, and it is not random. It is far more specific than an accident, far more deliberate than an invasion, and far stranger than anyone ever thought to tell you. Because the small animal in your attic did not stumble into your home by mistake. It chose it. It weighed your house against every other shelter in its world, and it decided yours was the best. And what it does up there all night while you sleep is something almost no one is ever awake to understand. You're listening to the Squirrel Mind, the place where we slow all the way down and look at the ordinary animals of your yard until they stop being ordinary at all. If that's the kind of quiet you've been looking for, take a second and subscribe, and stay close to me here. Because today, we're going up, into that narrow, dark space above your ceiling, to sit beside the squirrel that lives there through one entire night, from dusk to dawn, and finally understand what it is actually doing. We'll watch what it builds, what it guards, why it goes so completely still, and why the sound that wakes you is not the sound you think it is. And stay until the very end, because the last thing I'm going to tell you about where in your house it chose to settle and what that single choice quietly says about you will change the way you hear that 2 a.m. scratch for the rest of your life. Number 1, why your attic? Of all the places in the entire world, why there? To understand it, you have to stop seeing your house the way you see it and start seeing it the way a squirrel does. To you, an attic is storage, dust and boxes and old insulation under a sloped roof. To a squirrel, it is something else entirely. It is a cavity. In the wild, a tree squirrel's safest possible home is not a nest of leaves out on an open branch. It's a hollow, a deep, dry cavity inside the trunk of an old tree, where the wind can't reach, where the rain can't fall, and where almost no predator can follow it inside. Wildlife biologists who study eastern gray squirrels have found that these tree cavity dens are the warmest, most defended shelters in the animal's whole world. The problem is they're rare. A hollow deep enough and dry enough to be safe can take a tree the better part of a century to grow. And then, one autumn evening, a squirrel runs the line of your roof and finds a gap under the edge. It slips inside, into a space that is dry and dark and warm and walled off from every owl and every hawk for miles. To you, something got in. To the squirrel, it just found the finest hollow tree it has ever set foot inside. What this means for your home is simple and a little humbling. The squirrel above you is not there because it's lost or desperate or stupid. It's there because by every instinct it carries, your house is the best tree in the forest. But what comes next is something most people find almost impossible to believe about the thing in their ceiling. Number 2, it is very often a mother. Eastern gray squirrels don't raise their young in those loose-leaf nests you see swaying in the summer trees. They raise them deep inside a cavity, exactly the kind of dark, sealed chamber your attic imitates so perfectly. Researchers who track tree squirrels have found that a female will often have around 2 litters across a single year. And when she goes looking for a place to give birth, she is searching for one thing above all others: a fortress, dry, dark, warm, impossible to reach. Your attic is, to her, the answer to a prayer she doesn't know she's praying. So that busy scratching you hear in the days before everything goes quiet, the dragging, the rustling, the patient rearranging at the edge of the evening, that is not damage being done to your house. That is a mother building a nursery. pulling the insulation soft, weaving a deep, warm cup of it, preparing a room for young that haven't even been born yet. And she does it alone. In these squirrels, the mother raises the litter entirely by herself. And once they arrive, they stay hidden for a long, long time. The young are born blind and helpless, no bigger than your thumb, and for roughly the first 2 months of their lives, they never once leave that cavity. They have never seen the sky. The only world they have ever known is the warm, dark space above your bedroom, and the heartbeat of the mother who chose it for them. Number 3, which brings us to the strangest part of all. What she actually does all night long. Here is what almost no one realizes. A squirrel is a creature of the daylight. Unlike the raccoon, unlike the mouse, it does not own the night. It hides from it. So through all the hours you lie asleep, the squirrel in your attic is doing something that, from the outside, looks like nothing at all. It goes still. When the dark comes down, she pulls her young in close, wraps that long tail around them like a blanket, and 3 or 4 small bodies press together into a single, breathing knot of warmth. Squirrels don't sleep the winter away. They have no hibernation to escape into. So the cold is a thing they have to survive in real time, night after night. Researchers have measured what happens when they huddle like this, the way they share body heat, the way a tight cluster can hold a pocket of warmth far above the freezing air around it. And so the quiet shape above your head is running one program through the whole night, and only one: survive until morning. So when you wake at 2 a.m. and hear nothing, that silence is not absence. It's the sound of a family holding perfectly still in the dark, breathing slow, keeping each other alive. And the scratches that do wake you, the little bursts at dusk, the scrabble just before first light, those aren't the night at all. Those are the 2 edges of her day. The last trip out before the dark, the first careful movement at dawn. You were never hearing an intruder pacing your house. You were hearing the opening and the closing of a life lived on a schedule far older than your house. But before the last thing, and it's the part that tends to stay with people, there's one more piece you need. Number 4, she knows exactly where she is. A squirrel's memory for place is extraordinary, almost unreasonable for an animal that small. Researchers at UC Berkeley who study squirrel cognition have shown that these animals build precise mental maps, remembering thousands of locations, returning to exact spots months later, navigating their whole world by a spatial memory far sharper than their size should allow. The squirrel in your attic did not wander in on luck. She knows every route in and every route out. She knows which branch touches your roof, which gap opens under which eave, exactly how many seconds it takes to disappear. And she holds your home in her memory the way she'd hold a favorite tree, a fixed, known, trusted point in a world that is mostly danger. If she raises a litter there and they live, there is a real chance she comes back to the very same cavity to do it all again. The squirrel in your roof may not be a visitor at all. She may be a returning resident, quietly counting your house as hers for far longer than you ever noticed. And now the last thing, the thing I asked you to stay for. Think about where she's settled, not the garage, not the shed at the bottom of the yard, the attic, the highest, driest, most defended point in the entire structure. In the language of the wild, an animal places its young in the safest spot it can possibly find. And out of every place in the world she could have chosen, she chose the room directly above where you sleep. She doesn't know your name. She doesn't understand walls, or mortgages, or the word pest. But by the only logic she has, your house is the great unmoving tree at the center of her world. And you, passing below her every evening, slow and predictable and strangely harmless. You are the giant she has decided to trust. the one whose nearness keeps the real predators away from her children. Most people lie awake at 2 a.m. and hear a problem in the ceiling. You won't hear that anymore. You'll hear a mother, in the safest tree she has ever found, holding her children still in the dark, directly above the one creature in the world she trusts enough to sleep beneath. So the next time that soft scratch wakes you in the middle of the night, you won't reach for your phone to make it stop. You'll lie there a moment longer in the dark, and you will know exactly what it means. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had one living up there? In the attic, the eaves, inside the walls? Did you ever find out it was a mother? Tell me your story below. I read every single one, and I'll see you in the next one.